lightning split the sky with a deafening roar, illuminating the palace in a very bright flash. The king staggered back and was instantly struck by the gods. Once upon a time, in a kingdom somewhere in Oshun, there lived a king called Adegbite. King Adegbite was a very wicked king. His heart was as hard as a stone, and his rule felt like an endless storm. Everyone in the village was afraid of King Adegbite and never wanted to incur his wrath. King Adegbite craved power more than anything in the world. From his throne, he watched his people with eyes as cold as the moon, taking every coin they had worked for with heavy taxes. Even though the villagers worked hard all day, it was never enough for the king's greed, as the king ensured he collected almost all they have worked for in taxes. King Adegbite was a cruel king. He made his subjects suffer. Everyone in the village was afraid of him. Until one day, the village chief priest, Are, couldn't bear the sufferings of his people. With bravery in his heart, he approached King Adegbite, urging him to change his wicked ways. Are warned that if the king continued down this path, a virgin maiden will rise to take up his throne as commanded by the gods. Upon hearing his prophecy, King Adegbite's heart filled with dread. The thought of losing his power to a virgin sent shivers down his spine. How can a mere virgin take over my kingdom? The king questioned the chief priest in disbelief. I am the greatest king to ever live. No one will take my rulership. This throne belongs to me and my son, Adegbite declared with arrogance. Chief priest of my land, if you have nothing else to say, leave my palace this minute, the king commanded angrily. The chief priest stood up, his gaze steady as he responded, "Remember, my king, a word is always enough for the wise." With those words, Are turned and left the palace, leaving King Adegbite to ponder the warning echoing in his mind. Despite warnings from Are, the chief priest, King Adegbite remained stubborn, as he wanted to stop the prophecy by all means, and was curious as to why virgins were mentioned in the prophecy. King Adegbite commanded his servants to identify all unmarried virgins in the kingdom. Many unmarried virgin maidens were brought to the palace and married off to the king. This dashed the hopes of virgins to ever find true love. While others were married off, some were given ultimatum to marry and bear children as soon as possible. No one dared to question the king's decision, as this left the people of Oshun to be very helpless and unhappy. Some young maidens were consigned for their safety and sought refuge in neighboring villages. Unfortunately, some were not lucky enough, as they were caught by the king's servants. This contributed a sense of uneasiness among the maidens in Oshun kingdom. Seeing what was happening in Oshun, there lived a young woman named Wura. Born to the respected chief priestess Wumi, Wura was exempted from the king's decree due to her lineage. Wura was not only a daughter of a chief priestess, but she was an Aruba, a virgin dedicated to the goddess of Oshun, so she was not expected to marry. However, despite her privileged status, Wura was deeply troubled by the sufferings inflicted upon her people by the king's cruelty. Her heart burned with courage as she could no longer bear or stand idle while her people endured so much hardship. One day, Wura approached her mother, Wumi, and said, "Mommy, I am going to see the king. This madness must end." Wura spoke with so much courage. "Wura, you would do no such thing. What if something bad happens to you?" Wumi responded with so much fear. "Mommy, I have made my decision. No one has peace in this village again. A lot of virgin maidens are being married off against their consent just because of a prophecy. Mommy, I can't sit and watch this madness. Today is for virgins. Only the gods know who will be the next in this kingdom." Despite her mother's warning, Wura still insisted on going to confront King Atikpite. As she approached the palace gate, she was interrogated by one of the guards. "Hey, you maiden, what are you doing here?" The guard asked, his voice gruff with authority. "I am here to see the king. Do you have a problem with that?" Wura retorted boldly. "The king does not want any visitor during this period," the guard replied firmly. Upon hearing this, Wura's determination intensified as she started shouting at the top of her voice, "I must see the king. It's either I see the king or I do not go anywhere," she proclaimed adamantly. A persistent cry caught the attention of King Adigbiite, who ordered the guards to let her in. Inside the palace wall, King Adigbiite sat upon his throne, his gaze cold and unyielding. "What brings you here, woman?" he sneered. But Wura refused to be intimidated. As she said, "My name is Wura. I have come to plead for your mercy. I am here on behalf of the virgins in this land," she declared boldly. The king's laughter echoed through the chambers as he responded mockingly. "No one comes between my kingdom and me. A prophecy was made that a virgin will overthrow my reign, and you want me to stay still, Wura?" As the confrontation between Wura and the king escalated, tension ran high within the palace wall. "No, my king, I just wanted you to know that virgins are the victim of circumstances. No one wants the downfall of your reign," Wura pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. But the king remained unmoved. His resolve was shaken by her words. Before Wura could continue, he cut her off with a wave of his hand. "Who are you to walk into my palace and question my decision?" he demanded, his voice laced with arrogance and disdain. "I am Wura, a virgin, and I speak on behalf of all the virgins you have married without their consent in this village," she declared, her voice ringing out firmly. "Since you have decided to challenge me, your king, you will not go free for this. I shall marry you before the sun sets," King Adigbiite proclaimed, his voice dripping with arrogance. Wura exclaimed, "You shall do no such thing, my king." But King Adegbite was unmoved as he ordered his guards, "Guards, come and take this maiden away from my sight and lock her in my chambers." Wura's heart sank as the king guards approached her. They showed no compassion. Despite her attempt and plea for the king to reason with her, he showed no mercy as she was escorted towards the king's chambers, with her heart beating faster than normal. Wura was led through the dimly lit corridors and locked inside the king's chambers. Meanwhile, while this was happening, the chief priest, Are, entered the palace unannounced, wanting to speak with the king. When the king saw Are, he asked, "What do I owe this visit, chief priest of our land?" King Adegbite asked Are, "Your Majesty, what are you trying to do?" He began, his voice trembling with urgency. "You must seize this. This is not the way about to handle this prophecy. The maiden you seek to forcefully marry is no ordinary maiden. She belongs to the gods. She is an Aruba." But King Adegbite was stubborn and was not interested in what Are was saying. "I will not be swayed by your superstitions," the king declared, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Who cares if she is the child of the gods? She is a maiden of unparalleled beauty, and I desire her as my queen. I will marry whoever I want, however I want." Before sunset of the next day, King Adegbite ordered the marriage to proceed despite Are's warning. King Adegbite's heart was hardened against any sense of compassion or reason. And so, against her will, Wura was going to marry the wicked king. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she reluctantly went through the marital rites, her heart heavy with despair and fear as she prayed to the gods. But as the vows were exchanged between Wura and King Adegbite, a sudden bolt of lightning split the sky with a deafening roar, illuminating the palace in a very bright flash. The king staggered back and was instantly struck by the gods. In the middle of the chaos, everyone in the palace ran for their dear life, including the palace guards. Wura seized the opportunity to flee, her heart pounding with fear as she raced through the palace corridors, trying to find an easy escape route. Immediately the villagers heard the thunderbolts. They all rushed to the palace gates. Outside the gates of the palace, Wura's mother Wumi stood waiting for her beloved daughter. When Wura emerged outside the palace, panting and trembling, Wumi enveloped her in a tight embrace, with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Yami, please forgive me. Yami, please forgive me," Wura cried, seeking her mother's forgiveness for the horror she had endured. Wumi heard her daughter close. "I have forgiven you, my child," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Meanwhile, inside the palace, King Adegbite laid on the floor, almost lifeless, with no one to help, as everyone had fled from the palace. As days passed, King Adegbite was bedridden, his strength decreasing with each passing moment. One cool evening, Wura's mother Wumi came to the palace to visit the sick king and to confront him with a truth that would change everything. As their eyes met, the king could recognize Wumi as he said, "Wumi, is that you?" He whispered with a big surprise in his eyes, "Where have you been all these years?" Wumi and King Adegbite once had an affair when they were young, but the culture and tradition of the Osun people forbids any sort of romantic relationship between an Aruba, a virgin dedicated to the gods, and a member of the royal family. Their affair was considered a taboo. Tears filled Wumi's eyes as she revealed a long-held secret that would shake the king to his core. "My king," she began, her voice trembling with emotion, "there is something I need to reveal to you. I have kept this from you for a very long time, but I think now is the best time to know. Wura, the maiden you were about to marry, is your own flesh and blood. She is your daughter." Wumi recounted the forbidden love that blossomed between her and King Adegbite in their youths, a love that defied the street customs of Osun. "Yes, our affair was a taboo, but the outcome was my blessing," Wumi confessed, tears dropping from her eyes as she spoke. "Based on the tradition of our land, I was never meant to get pregnant, let alone have an affair with a man. I am an Aruba. I had to flee to protect myself and our unborn child." The truth weighed heavily upon the king as he realized the gravity of his action. "So you mean to tell me that I was going to marry my daughter?" he gasped, horror dawning upon him. "What have I done? I have defiled the gods and brought their wrath upon myself." Wumi responded, her voice filled with sorrow. "The gods are very angry with you. You not only attempted to marry your daughter, but you also married an Aruba, a sacred virgin dedicated to the gods. That is why you are in this predicament, my king." With a sad heart, King Adegbite begged for forgiveness, his voice heavy with regrets. In his voice he said, "Wumi, I have failed you and Wura. Please find a place in your heart to forgive me. Please also tell the people of Osun to find a place to forgive me, for I have failed them as a king." But King Adegbite's repentance came too late, for his soul was burdened by the sins of his past, and his last breath was filled with so much regret. After the king's passing, the kingdom faced a period of uncertainty regarding succession. While tradition initially pointed to Prince Olumide inheriting the throne, a revelation shook the foundations of the kingdom's belief. It became clear that Wura, as the firstborn child of the king, held a rightful claim to the throne. However, this posed a dilemma for the people of Osun, because despite Wura's royal blood, she belonged to the gods as an Aruba. When Wura learned that the king, King Adegbite, was her father, she was utterly stunned. Turning to her mother with wide eyes filled with disbelief, she questioned, "Why did you keep this from me all this time? How can you not tell me that that wicked king is my father?" Wumi's voice, trembling with emotion, replied, "I was terrified that they would take you away from me. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you." She then revealed, "And you are the first fruit of the king, which means you are the one to ascend the throne, not his son, Prince Olumide." Struggling to come to terms with this revelation, Wura's mind raced with a mixture of conflicting emotions. Determined to seek guidance and clarity, Wura made her way to the sacred temple to consult with Are, the respected chief priest of Oshun. As she stood before him, with her heart heavy with uncertainty, she poured out her soul, sharing the shocking truth and the situation she found herself in. What are the gods saying? Am I the rightful heir to the throne? And why must I be the one to take over the throne? Wura questioned, her heart heavy with sorrow. I do not wish to succeed that wicked king. But Are, the chief priest, spoke with unwavering conviction. My daughter, you must embrace your destiny. You are not the daughter of the king. You are a child of the gods. Your life is a prophecy that must be fulfilled, and only you can bring sanity to our land. And so, as months passed by, with a heavy heart and a sense of duty weighing upon her, Wura accepted her fate and ascended to the throne of Oshun. Under her rule, justice prevailed, and the people found solace in the knowledge that even the mightiest of tyrants could not escape the judgment of the gods. The legacy and lineage of King Adigbite came to an end, as the throne now belonged to the gods through Wura, who became the ruler. As Wura ruled with wisdom and compassion, oppression, fear, and hunger ceased to plague the land, and peace returned to the once troubled land of Oshun. The moral of this story urges us to cultivate humility, empathy, and a sense of responsibility towards others, recognizing that true strength of leadership lies in compassion, integrity, and humility rather than in dominance and power.